Welcome to the next episode about programming engines. Let me remind you that in this series we discussed the Godot Engine and the Gdscript scripting language together. In this episode, I will tell you how to write basic scripts and make simple animations. You need to start working with the Godot Engine from the engine.org website. Download the appropriate version of Godot. There are lines to choose from 4th and 3rd. 3 has long-term support but is technologically older. The 4th line still has some disadvantages due to the fact that it simply contains same errors. In my guides, we will learn version 4 as the development version. After downloading the file from Godot Engine, you need to unpack it on your hard drive and already we can start creating our first project. Godot does not need to be installed. This is simply the directory from which we run this application. I click on Godot and I can open one of the projects I was working on. Import the project. I can also create a completely new project. I will choose this solution because I want to show step by step how we will create projects. I will create an appropriate name and place the project on my hard drive in a directory. Before we create a project, we need to choose the right version taking into account subsequent rendering. We will choose compatibility, the version that gives us the greatest opportunities in terms of the number of devices to which the planned project can be exported. Click Create and Edit. The Godot Engine has started and it consists of several basic parts. At the top we have a menu that is sometimes useful for various types of settings. On the left side there are scene elements as well as various types of resources including scripts. There are two different views available in Godot, 2D or 3D. We will be creating a 2D design, so we will leave this view. We have the ability to quickly launch our project. I will show it in a moment once we create a project. We'll start with a general statement that in Godot everything is made up of scenes. As you can see, we have 3 options listed here, but there are many more. Maybe we should create a new 2D scene first. Let's name her this scene. Standing on this stage, I click the plus sign. Then a selection menu appears. There's really a lot of it. I remember that when I started my adventure with Godot, I was maybe even discouraged at times by the huge number of different types of possibilities related to the selection of objects that we can insert. But you have to go step by step based on specific examples. Let's start by selecting Sprite 2D. I started writing sprite and it pops up, sprite 2D. I click and a sprite 2D object has been created. Let's give it a name. I made a small mistake here. It should be remembered that a standard has been adopted that the names of individual scenes should be written in capital letters. I made this mistake specifically to emphasize how it should be correct. At the bottom of the screen you will find a directory of resources. I will now add the logo. I will create a folder called EMG. Yes, now we will put the actual image into this directory. Maybe I'll post one logo, maybe another logo. I could also create the directory directly in Godot. But I still had to transfer the files so it was easier. If I want this sprite to be one of my images, I can do one of two things. I can click Load and select the image I want. But there is another way. Just hover over the image you want to assign to your sprite. Press it with the mouse and drag it to the empty sign. I can replace such an image in the project at any time. I can grab another image and replace it with the first one. Managing many activities in Godot is very simple. It works on the principle of grab, drag, and drop. The Ctrl+S shortcut will save our project. See that Godot saved the right name. He created it in lowercase letters and underscores. Standing on the logo, we will add the first script, which will be written in Gdscript coding language. We can choose empty and default. I will choose default, which means I added a script to the logo. I click Create and see a script has been created in accordance with the principles of object-oriented programming. This object extends the sprite to the object, which you can read about in the Godot documentation. You can also, while holding the Ctrl key, hover over the sprite 2D. As you can see, sprite 2D then highlights itself. I click and the Godot documentation opens and description of what sprite 2D is. It is extremely practical that access to documentation is at your fingertips. I really liked it when I started using Godot. You don't even need to leave the Godot environment. Let me close this information part for now. Let's see, we have two functions here. We choose default, so two standard functions have been added, ready and process. You can consider this to be a certain initial state. Past this is, of course, just like in Python, means an empty function. The process function is a basic function that refreshes the scene every specific time, the so-called delta. I will talk about the delta indicator a little later. Let's go to the 2D view. This is our scene. I'm going to click Ctrl+, Ctrl+S again to save this. Now, in the project settings menu and then in the window, I choose the scene size. As you can see, the standard is 1050 by 52 by 648. I won't touch it for now. Of course, then in one of the next lessons we will also deal with Godot settings. Let's see how the buttons on the top right work. There we can preview a given scene or the entire project. There are also further options which we will discuss in the following sections. Let's go back to the sprite object we added. It was placed in the upper left corner. This is the position of 0 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. Let's get back to the script. Let's write down a very simple thing. Vector 100 by 100. Let's save this and see that our scene looks like now. I moved our object from its initial state by 100 along the x-axis and 100 along the y-axis. Let's go crazy. Let's move the object along the x-axis by 117. Let's see. Oh yes, you can see the entire logo now. Of course, we can work on this image in the right column. We have a lot of tools with which we can rotate the image, set it in a different position, change its color, and a whole range of other settings which we will talk about in the next episodes. Let's start by doing 0.5 scaling. Let's see what came out. Now, as you can see, this project is smaller than logo is smaller. We can reduce here, let's say 120 and 90. Let's save it and run it. The object has moved, but this is only the initial state, as I already said. The process function can animate. For now, let's see the basics. We will write the position again only for y. If you know the coding rules, you will probably understand what I wrote here. The code we just wrote down has just come out, a downward move. Well, following these steps, let's do the same thing with position x. Plus equals. And let's say not 1 but 3 units. Let's write it down and see. Currently, our object is moving at a speed of 1 unit down and 3 units along the x-axis. This way we will obtain a certain vector component. In this project, sprite runs away from the screen after a while. But that's all in this lesson. In the next one we will improve the animation we created and play a little more with moving objects. We will also mention delta because delta is a very important element in the entire theory and practice of animation, both in Godot but also in other IT tools. Thank you very much for today. I have a request. If you liked it, please subscribe to my po swojsku channel and give it a like. I will be very grateful, and of course it will be a motivation for me to create further episodes about creating games in Godot. Regards and see you in the next episodes. Bye bye!